If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. On work, I don't pity any man who does hard work worth doing. I admire him. I pity the creature who does not work, at whichever end of the social scale he may regard himself as being. On self-knowledge, unless a man is master of his soul, all other kinds of mastery amount to little. On diversity, I cannot consent to take the position that the door of hope, the door of opportunity, is to be shut upon any man, no matter how worthy, purely upon the grounds of race or color. Such an attitude would, according to my convictions, be fundamentally wrong. On conflict, the unforgivable crime is soft hitting. Do not hit at all if it can be avoided, but never hit softly. On history, it is of little use for us to pay lip loyalty to the mighty men of the past unless we sincerely endeavor to apply to the problems of the present precisely the qualities which in other crises enabled the men of that day to meet those crises. On virtue, no nation deserves to exist if it permits itself to lose the stern and virile virtues, and this without regard to whether the loss is due to the growth of a heartless and all-absorbing commercialism, to prolonged indulgence in luxury and soft, effortless ease, or to the deification of a warped and twisted sentimentality. On striving, you often hear people speaking as if life was like striving upward toward a mountain peak. That is not so. Life is as if you were traveling a ridge crest. You have the gulf of inefficiency on one side and the gulf of wickedness on the other, and it helps not to have avoided one gulf if you fall into the other. It is hard to fail, but it is worse never to have tried to succeed. To believe you can and you're halfway there, do what you can, with what you have, where you are. To educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace to society. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Speak softly and carry a big stick, you will go far. Keep your eyes on the stars, and your feet on the ground. Courage is not having the strength to go on, it is going on when you don't have the strength. I am a part of everything that I have read. I am an American, free-born and free-bred, where I acknowledge no man as my superior, except for his own worth, or as my inferior, except for his own demerit. To announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public. Every immigrant who comes here should be required within 5 years to learn English or leave the country. When you play hard. When you work, don't play at all. The best executive is the one who has sense enough to pick good men to do what he wants done, and self-restraint to keep from meddling with them while they do it. No man needs sympathy because he has to work, because he has a burden to carry. Far and away the best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. When they call the roll in the Senate, the senators do not know whether to answer present or not guilty. Politeness is a sign of dignity, not subservience. The joy in life is his who has the heart to demand it. If given the choice between righteousness and peace, I choose righteousness. It is not often that a man can make opportunities for himself. But he can put himself in such shape that when or if the opportunities come he is ready. No man is justified in doing evil on the ground of expediency. I am only an average man, but by George, I work harder at it than the average man. Only those are fit to live who do not fear to die, and none are fit to die who have shrunk from the joy of life and the duty of life. Both life and death are parts of the same great adventure. There is not a man of us who does not at times need a helping hand to be stretched out to him, and then shame upon him who will not stretch out the helping hand to his brother. Far and away the best prize that life has to offer is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. Women should have free access to every field of labor which they care to enter, and when their work is as valuable as that of a man it should be paid as highly. The nation behaves well if it treats its natural resources as assets which it must turn over to the next generation increased, and not impaired, in value. People ask the difference between a leader and a boss. The leader works in the open, and the boss in covert. The leader leads, and the boss drives. I care not what others think of what I do, but I care very much about what I think of what I do. That is character. With self-discipline most anything is possible. There can be no life without change, and to be afraid of what is different or unfamiliar is to be afraid of life. For us is the life of action, of strenuous performance of duty. Let us live in the harness, striving mightily. Let us rather run the risk of wearing out than rusting out. If there is not the war, you don't get the great general. If there is not a great occasion, you don't get a great statesman. If Lincoln had lived in a time of peace, no one would have known his name. We demand that big business give the people a square deal. In return we must insist that when anyone engaged in big business honestly endeavors to do right he shall himself be given a square deal. I would rather go out of politics having the feeling that I had done what was right than stay in with the approval of all men, knowing in my heart that I have acted as I ought not to. To educate a man in mind and not in morals is to educate a menace to society. Comparison is the thief of joy. It is no use to preach to children if you do not act decently yourself. We must hold to a rigid accountability those public servants who show unfaithfulness to the interests of the nation or inability to rise to the high level of the new demands upon our strength and our resources. The conservation of natural resources is the fundamental problem. Unless we solve that problem it will avail us little to solve all others. There is not one among us in whom a devil does not dwell. At some time, on some point, that devil masters each of us. It is not having been in the dark house, but having left it, that counts. We want men who will fix their eyes on the stars, but who will not forget that their feet must walk on the ground. The longer I live the more I think of the quality of fortitude. Men who fall, pick themselves up and stumble on, fall again, and are trying to get back up when they die. Thank you for watching and touching the subscribe.